what is it that's holding you back, keeping you from becoming everything that God has created you to be, living your purpose and reaching your destiny? Is it self doubt, feeling that you don't measure up to others? Perhaps it's fear or lack of resources, offenses and challenges, maybe even past or current circumstances. Well, I want you to know that these are pathologies, diseases of the mind that negatively impact how you think and perceive things that invade your everyday life. You can overcome these peculiarities and become conquerors, living in the purpose that God has for your life. The Bible in Philippians 4:13 teaches us, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Hello, I'm your coach Dee Johnson, and I'm going to share with you on how you can overcome these pathologies and be all that God created you to be on today's Watering the Seed. Welcome back, Seeds. If you've been following this series, How Did You Get Here? You know, in our first episode, we dug into awareness, naming what pathologies are and how to recognize the fruit in your life. Today, we're taking it a step further, though, because these patterns, they don't just affect you and me. They leave fingerprints on our children, our grandchildren, our nieces, nephews, and even the communities we belong to. The question is, are we passing down healing or are we passing down hurt? Let's go to scripture. In the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 5, it reads, I lay the sins of the parents upon their children. The entire family is affected, even children in the third and fourth generations of those who reject me. Hmm. Let's pause there. Let me just say this. This scripture isn't about God punishing children for what their parents did. It's not that. It's about the ripple effects. The rippling that occurs when the parents' sins or toxic behaviors and unhealed trauma, when it gets passed down to their children and their children's children and generations long after them, until it's deemed as generational and identified as being normal. You see, when trauma goes unhealed, it gets recycled. When silence is the perceived norm, how they deal with situations that require them to express themselves or self expression, the next generation grows up not knowing how to express themselves. And when abandonment happens, and it only takes one time for it to happen, just once, the shadow of the shadow of the abandonment lingers long after the original act. The ripple effect. When I was a kid, my bonus mom, who loved to fish, she absolutely enjoyed fishing. She would wake us early in the morning during our summer break to go fishing with her and her friends. And she and her friends would sit for hours. I mean, pretty much all day, from like 6 a.m. till about 10 o'clock at night, watching their fishing poles and power lines. And we as children, we were not allowed to fish. They would show us little, tidbits of what to do and how to, bait the hooks and things like that. But we weren't allowed to fish because the laws wouldn't allow children under a certain age to fish. So we had to find things to do. And we would chuck rocks into the lake. We would skip rocks into the lake water and watch the water give a ripple effect. We watched the ripples move outward, and they kept going and moving out so far until eventually our eyes could no longer see them. That's what happens with this abandonment that we're talking about, and other trauma and toxic behaviors within our bloodlines. They ripple through generations unhealed, and they just keep moving outward. But when my bonus mom saw what we were doing, when she saw us chucking those rocks, uh, she yelled out to us, stop throwing those rocks in the water. And then she explained to us later that the sound of the rocks hitting the water and the ripple it makes scares the fish away, which meant we don't get to be to be fed. We don't get to eat the fish. And this is what happens in our generations, our bloodlines, until someone like you or me comes along and gives this thing a name and begin to heal it. This is what happens, that rippling effect that just kind of goes from one generation to another. Let me tell you a story. This little girl now, but her name is Denise. Denise's mother left when she was just a little girl, about 6 years old. Not really old enough to know what was going on, but old enough to recognize the absence. No explanation, just absence, abandonment, if you will. Denise grew up believing she wasn't enough to stay, she wasn't enough for her mom to stay. And that seed of rejection sank deep, 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 deep into her. And so when she became an adult, she overcompensated. She people pleased. She said yes when her soul. But here's the thing, because she never felt worthy of real love, she chose men who reflected that. She chose partners that reflected, the lack of love. And one of them was just like her mom, here one moment, gone the next. Mom, here one moment, gone the next. And Denise's daughter, her daughter, she's an adult also. I won't give her name because she's a very young adult, but we'll just call her Jasmine. Jasmine grew up watching her mom accept scraps and call it love. And without even mom's absence, her grandmother's absence, her grandmother's absence, because her mom did not leave. But her mom did exhibit the toxic behaviors that came behind her mother being absent from her life. Okay. So Jasmine inherited her grandmother's absence, not because she left, but because she never learned how to expect more. She never learned that. And that's how pathology moves. One absence, birth, rejection, one absent birth, rejection. Rejection, birth, people pleasing. Okay? People pleasing, birth, settling. 3 generations. 3 generations later, same root, different fruit. Okay? And this is why awareness is not just personal, it's generational. Think about this. Family, think about this. Families where addiction runs deep, families where anger is the default language, with other things that we can't use on this podcast, families where silence is louder than love. We say that's just how we've been taught. And unless someone chooses differently, that teaching keeps recycling over and over and over again, from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next. So, to the next. So, let me ask you something. I have 3 questions I just want you to ponder over just a little bit. Um, what cycles do you see running through your family? Do you identify with any of these? And if so, what are they? Abuse, any cycles. Do you see them running through your family? And then, do the men struggle with presence? Are there any men in your family that struggle with presence? Do the women struggle with self-worth? Is there a pattern of poverty? Is there a pattern of poverty, addiction, broken marriages? Okay, silence again, silence. Because if so, listen, this isn't about shame. So please don't feel ashamed. This is not about shame. This is about healing. Everyone has some brokenness in their family. Trust me. Everybody does. Everybody has something they call mess. Okay? Everybody has some mess in their family. So, no, we're not ashamed. We're not doing that. This is about clarity. Because when you can spot the ripple, you can stop it. Just like my bonus mom. When you spot the ripple, you can stop it. When she saw the ripple in the water, she identified where it was coming from. She addressed us because it was coming from us. And then she explained why it's not okay. Okay? My bonus mom saw the ripple of the rocks being thrown into the water, knew the effects it would have on the fish and on us because we wouldn't be able to eat, and put a stop to it immediately. Immediately. And this, my beloved seeds, is what we must do to heal our bloodlines and protect the future generations. This is what we must do. Name it and put an end to it. Heal it. So take a moment and say this with me. Take a moment and say this with me. Let's affirm. The cycle may have started before me, but it will not continue through me. The cycle may have started before me, but it will not continue through me. In today's world, we talk a lot about generational wealth. We talk about passing down money and property, assets, and believe me, all those things are important to our family legacy, okay? They are. But what about generational health, emotional wealth, spiritual wealth? What about these things? Because seriously, what good is money if the bloodline is poisoned with trauma that nobody ever confronted? What good is success if the next generation inherits disguised as normalcy? Without generational health, tangible wealth will not last. It will not last. You know, as the saying goes, a fool and his money will soon depart. This is very, very true. Seeds. Seeds. Simply put, we have the power to shift from one inheritance of pain to inheritance of healing, inheritance of power. We have the power to shift these things. We do. We do. So let's reflect. Get your journal and we're going to reflect on them, okay? Number one, what cycle in my family do I see clearly now? Now that we've had this conversation, what cycle in your family do you see? And be really frank about it. Be clear. What is it? And then number two, how has it touched me and how has it touched those who came after me? If you have children, if you have adult children and now grandchildren, do you see the rippling effect? I know I do. I identify with it, instantly. And, when I'm having situations or circumstances or happenstances within my family dynamics, most, basically, or, mostly speaking about my own children and my grandchildren, I identify with it quickly and I address it and I have a conversation with their parent about it. My kid, they're not kids, but my adult children, I have conversations with them about it and I tell them where it's coming from as far as I can reach back. And then I let them know that it definitely is generational and that you have to deal with it in a way that in today's world that in a way that would help their children and operate in today's world in our society, the society the society that we have today, because the society of today is not the society of yesterday, not the one that I grew up in. So things are quite different. But they have to thrive in their society, and you have to help them heal in a way that they can thrive in society. And so we talk about these things. So again, how has it touched me and how has it touched those who came after me? I need you to answer that. And then number three, what do I want to pass down instead? Instead of passing down that toxic behavior, those really poor habits, and saying that this is just the way that I am, or this is just the way that we are, what do you want to pass down instead of that? Think about that. Write it down, reflect on it, and let's really get to work on it. Write it, write it down, speak it. Those of you who believe in prayer, pray about it. Whatever you do, get it out of your head and into the light, because if you don't shine the light on it, it stays in the dark. And believe me, it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere except down your bloodline. It's just going to keep traveling and traveling and traveling, rippling and rippling and rippling. Okay? Literally ripping generations apart. Now, back a little bit. Let's talk about what we discussed today. So we peeled back another layer. That's what we did. We peeled back another layer. We saw how one wound can echo through generations if left unhealed. We recognize the pathologies that don't stop at the person. They move through the bloodline. We identified that. But the good news, the good news, the good news, the good news is if pain can be passed down, so can healing. Down that toxic behavior, we can pass down healing. If pathology can run through generations, so can purpose. So can purpose. So, in the next episode, we're closing this series with breaking free and healing forward. We'll talk about practical steps, how to stop the cycle, how to plant new seeds, and how to make sure the generations after us inherit more than just survival. So, I'll leave you with this affirmation, and you can say it along with me, write it down, and speak it as much as you need to. I am not the carrier of pain, I am the builder of healing. My bloodline will shift because I chose to see, I chose to stop, and I chose to heal. I am not the carrier of pain. I am the builder of healing. My bloodline will shift because I chose to see, I chose to stop, and I chose to heal. Seeds, until next time, keep watering your seeds. I love you. Bye now.